Hi guys, welcome to my channel Vinyl Beauty, or welcome back. I'm Debbie if you don't know me. So for today's video, I'm super excited. We're going to be looking at the eyeshadow palettes from my collection that I would recommend for fall. Now this video isn't about you going out and buying new makeup at all. It's just to show you the palettes that I've got in my collection, and it might inspire you to either pick these ones up and use them again, or to maybe just shop your stash and see what you've got in your collection that's fall inspired, autumnal vibes, all the cozy feels. Now I've done a video like this and it's been about 2 or maybe even 3 years ago. Haven't done one since because I hadn't really picked up that many more palettes that were that kind of colour scheme. But I rewatched that video this morning and I thought, yeah, some of those are still my favourites and they'll still be featuring in this one. But I've picked up a few new ones in the last year or so that I think are perfect for fall time. So I'm just really excited to talk about fall eyeshadow and just show you the palettes that I've selected. So without further ado, let's just hop straight into the video. Okay guys, so fall time is my favourite really. Once we start getting into fall and then Halloween and then Christmas, this is where I come into my own with makeup, because I love like dark smoky kind of looks, but I also like warm and cozy kind of red, orange and green looks as well. So a lot of the palettes here are based around those kind of colour stories. And we're going to start with an older palette in my collection, and it kind of makes me sad when I show you this one because it's not what the brand are like now. But this is the Kaleidos Sci-Fi Green palette, so their Futurism 1 palette. Oh, I just wish they would bring these Futurism palettes back. I think the last release that they've brought out is just so uninspiring really. The packaging is beautiful but so neutral leaning. These were just so cool, so innovative. Love the packaging, love the colour stories. I'm sure you guys must remember this one, but just a gorgeous palette. Had everything you need to just do a simple amber toned or green or gold grungy full vibed look. You've got the black to deepen up. It's a really good black in here. Yeah, it's just a really gorgeous palette. Next up, I've also got an older palette, and again it makes me a little bit sad because I can't buy from this brand anymore, and it's Menagerie and their Killer Pearl palette. I really wanted to pick up, they've just been talking about that Arthurine blush palette that's been discontinued, and so I checked again to see whether they ship to the UK. They ship to about 50 or 60 countries, but the UK isn't one of them sadly, so I wasn't able to pick it up. And it just makes me so sad. When I started my journey on YouTube, Menagerie were my favourite brand, and they probably still would be if I could pick up their shadows, because just look at that colour story. Let's just show you super close up. So it's warm neutrals but with a bit of a twist. That orange shade is just stunning. It's got some interesting shades, like I use that one as a brow bone highlight when I use this palette, but it's got a gorgeous deep chocolatey colour to deepen up with. It's got some pops of green. It's just autumn in a palette, really easy to use in a fabulous formula, and beautiful artwork on the packaging as well. So one of my favourites in my collection. This is also probably the falliest fall palette ever. So it's the Ace Beauté Classical Paradise. When I think of fall palettes, this is the first one that comes to my mind, honestly. I think all the shade names are very fall, like Golden Apple, Hay, Harvest, Barley, Earth. It's just that earthy fall tones but cozy and just beautiful. It's got a gorgeous sort of red lean to this palette as well, and I love red eyeshadow. And this is the old formula of these palettes, so there was 4 in this line of palettes and they've reformulated all of their shadows now, but this has got the old formula and I love this formula. I didn't mind the mattes in this formula, the shimmers, traditional pressed shimmers. They're not this putty formula they've moved over to now, and this has stood the test of time for me. This has been one of my favourite palettes in my collection since I bought it. Still love it, still intend to use it this fall time. But last fall I did pick up this one, and it's the Ambiance palette, and it is a beautiful colour story, I can't deny. They have changed the shimmer formula and the packaging's got a bit bigger as well. But again, it's gorgeous. It's a bit deeper, this one, and I love the deep dark row. Well, the middle's not dark, but these two and these two, just how deep they go. You can take this one from autumnal vibes into Halloween quite easily with the shades that are chosen in here. It is super beautiful. That shade's my favourite in here, but it's definitely got all these warm tone vibes, the ambers, oranges, gold sort of shades, and some green as well, so it's definitely suitable for fall time. So going back in time again, I've got another classic from my collection that I still adore, and that's the Coloured Rain Safari Rain. This featured in my original video I did a couple of years ago as well, because you'll see why. It's just such a beautiful colour story, this one. What stands this one apart, it's got the oranges and greens and whatnot that you would expect from a fall colour story, but it's the shimmers. They're just so buttery smooth but so foiled. They're not these shimmers that have got like the super reflective particles in that everybody knows and loves now, but the shimmers like Lioness in particular and Tigress, the orange and the gold, they're just really smooth but really reflective and foiled, and that's my favourite kind of shimmer really, so that's why this palette is still an absolute star in my collection. They never surpass this. I don't really see much hype for Coloured Rain anymore, but yeah, I love this palette so much. Next up we've got this one from Spectrum, which are a brush brand, but they do makeup as well, and this is the Pantherine palette. And if you're more into the orangey kind of tones, then this one's got you covered. There's no greens in this one. It is just all those warm, toasty, orangey vibes, but it's done so well. It's made in Italy. It's superb quality and quite affordable for the quality that it is. And you've got 3 really beautiful shimmers across the centre, and the rest are matte, and every sort of tone that you might want of those orangey vibes. So that's why this one's here. It's really good. Next up is the Midnight Sun by Pat McGrath. I think this is the most fall palette that she's ever released. It's super beautiful. It's probably not my favourite palette from Pat McGrath, but for this time of year it's perfect. And it does have a twist in here as well. You've got some interesting colours because you've got all the neutral tones that you might want, but it does lean a little bit orangey and warm toned with these reds and sort of goldy shades. You've got a grungy green shimmer shade in here. You've got a really interesting special shade there. But then you can take it in different directions because you've got the lilac-y tone one as well. But it's more about sort of these colours here for me at this time of year. And beautiful formula, beautiful palette. Going back now to probably the oldest palette that I'm going to show you that I still think is perfect for fall time, and that's the Tribe by Juvia's. The best Juvia's Place palette ever to be released, I think. It's just gorgeous. I miss these 9 pans so much. This is when I had to have everything from the brand. These are the colours, ultra reflective, so difficult to show on camera, but really stunning. There's some gorgeous duochromes in here. There's a lot of depth that you can create. There's different tones of green in here. There's a really unusual kind of pukey browny shade in here. It's just magical, honestly. I love this palette so much. Okay, next up we've got a UK indie brand, and this is Lois Cosmetics, and their Meet Me in the Underworld palette. And if you're looking for grungy tones for fall time, this one's definitely got you covered. Such a beautiful colour story. You've got the, as I say, more grungier side of fall, but you have still got some popping, reflective, shiny shimmers in here as well. There's some golds and oranges in here. You've got the more warmer reds to go with the greens. So a bit of a different take on it, but I think it definitely deserves to be here. I haven't used this in a long time actually, and digging through my palettes to decide which ones I wanted to use for this video or to showcase for this video, saw this one again and I thought, do you know what, I really want to play with that again. I don't know if that happens to you guys when you go through your collection, you just find undiscovered or forgotten gems, and that's how I feel about this one. Such a nice palette. Next up I've got a palette from Nomad, and I think their most fall appropriate palette was obviously the Hudson Valley, but I don't own that. But this is the America's Parks, and although this didn't come out as a fall palette at all, I think it came out in the summertime, it's still perfect. And I think that's another thing to remember. It doesn't have to be specific to the time of year or the theme to still be perfect for the time of year you want to use it. So these are the shades. You've got the greens, you've got some oranges and some reds and some bit more ambery tone mattes and yellows in there. Just think it's perfect for this time of year, and beautiful formula in this one as well. Really do love this palette. I think I might have to pick up the Hudson Valley when I pick up their Halloween palette, whatever that is going to be, because I know I'm going to want it. Next up I've got Melt, and I've actually got 3 palettes from Melt that I want to show you that are perfect for fall time. They just do fall so well, I think, and these palettes again didn't necessarily come out for fall, but they're fall colour stories to me. So we've got the 420 palette, which was controversial when it came out. Nobody liked the formula. I love it. I didn't have a problem with it at all. So it's all matte, so there's only 1 shimmer in here, but it's those kind of, I don't know, more yellow leaning tones, and there's some really unusual tones in here that you just don't find in many palettes, and that's what makes it stand out. And yeah, it's just beautiful, I think. I've done a look with the yellow and the grey, but I suppose it's more about these kind of tones here for fall time, but yeah, I think it's perfect for fall. But if you're looking for a bit more rusty, warm, cozy kind of tones that are really rich in pigment, then the Rust palette from Melt has got you covered. I love this palette. I think it's probably one of my favourite Melt palettes of all time, and that's saying something because they've had some really solid palettes with some amazing colour stories, but every shade in here performs really, really well, including the shimmers, which, you know, they're not always the best, their shimmers. I do appreciate that. Or they're always rich in pigment, and they're always like smooth and buttery, I think, but they're just not reflective like people want these days. But as I say, still rich and pigmented and gorgeous. But it's just the depth of this one. I love that it goes light to dark, but these sort of chocolatey, more rusty, warm tone shades are just gorgeous on the eyes, and my kind of colours really. And then I've recently, well I say recently, it's probably been about a year, I picked up the Melt Gemini palette, and I've got the Gemini 2 as well, but I think the Gemini in particular is the one that everyone thinks of for fall. And I've not used it yet, but I am intending to make a video with it for fall. I think I've dipped into it for the black or a couple of shades, but I've never done a specific video on it. But you've got all the grungy greens in this one, but you've got all the warm tone neutrals as well, and a black to smoke everything out. So it's just perfection for fall. Can't wait to use this one, and so happy to own it in the newer packaging that they brought out, because I think this packaging was just gorgeous as well. We've got 3 palettes left, and they're all fairly recent acquisitions for me, but this one is an older palette, and it's Give Me Glow's Juicy Olive. I was so excited to finally pick this up, and when I opened it I nearly gasped. It's just so beautiful. It's all olive toned, it's all green and grungy with beautiful reflective shimmers that Give Me Glow are known for. If you've been here before, you'll know that Give Me Glow is one of my favourite formulas of all time. I think this is stunning. Not used it on my channel yet, but intend to do so at full time for sure. And I've just placed a Give Me Glow order. As I'm filming this today, what's the date? It's the 19th. They've got a 30% off sale on their website, which helps to combat that expensive shipping that they have, because it's £23 to ship their palettes to the UK. But I've bought 3 palettes today. I'm trying to collect them all. So I've got the Juicy Blueberry, I've got the Vintage Rose, and the Sweet and Sticky on their way to me now. So not too many that I don't own, but really excited that I have this one in my collection. Next up we've got something a little different. So we've got the Swamp of Sorrows palette from Necromancy Cosmetica in its cute little packaging. I love these. I've got this one, I've got their Gothic Romance as well. I've never done a video on this one. I've done a video on the Gothic Romance, but this is more their grungy fall colour story. So if you're not aware of their palettes, they open up like a sort of concertina like that, and that becomes the palette. And this one's definitely got the grungy vibes to it. Swamp of Sorrows is the perfect name for it, because it really is those swampy, murky kind of shades, but I think still perfect for fall, but a different take on it. And then last but not least, I had to give a mention to this one from Artitude Cosmetics. It's their Man-Eater palette. So Artitude, of course, are another UK-based indie brand. It's the only palette from them I own, but it's so, so good. Really happy to have this in my collection. It came out in springtime, but it's got some very fall appropriate colours in here. So you've got all the warm toned oranges. There's a beautiful reflective multi-chrome here. You've got some gorgeous grungy green tones as well, some more neutrally kind of tones at the bottom there. You've got a pop of kind of a burgundy shade if you're wanting that. Yeah, it's a gorgeous palette. and yeah, it's the one that tempted me to try the brand, and I'm not disappointed at all. It's really great formula and such a great curation of colours in this palette. It's really inspiring to me, while still being a bit more on the neutral side, which is kind of what I'm loving right now. So yeah, I think there were 16 palettes in this video, and I think all in their own way are perfect for fall. You've got some that are a bit brighter, some that are a bit murkier and grungier. We've got indie brands, we've got some mainstream, we've got UK and we've got US covered here. And yeah, I love them all for different reasons. So I know there's nothing that's super new, and that's not the point of this video really. As I say, it's to encourage you to think about what you might have in your stash, and you might have completely different to these, or you might have some crossover, but it's about getting those palettes out and having fun with those and rediscovering them. As I say, when I was pulling these out to make this video, I was like, oh, I've got that one, I'd forgotten I got that. And then rewatching my old video, I was like, oh yeah, I do still own that, and because I never declutter anything anyway. But you know, that would be great for this time of year. I don't need any more fall eyeshadow palettes, so I don't intend to buy any actually. I think I'm good with what I have here. Maybe the Hudson Valley, because that's got some beautiful red tones in there, and that's definitely my vibe. But that might be the only one, and that's not super new either. So as I say, hope you've enjoyed watching. I hope you've enjoyed seeing a few of my eyeshadow palettes again. It's always fun to talk about them, and I know you guys enjoy seeing my collection. I want to say thank you for all the love on my eyeshadow palette collection video. I'll link it again in case you didn't catch it, but it's getting on for 2.5 hours, and it showed all of the palettes I got in my collection at that point, although I have added some more since I filmed that one. But yeah, hope you've enjoyed this one, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you're new to my channel, I hope you might consider subscribing before you go. Other than that, hope you're having a lovely day or night wherever you are. Catch you in the next one. Bye, guys.